Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the 20th episode of the TRVL Travel Photography Podcast. On this episode, we are joined by another Irish photographer. This is Bernard Geraghty. He is the fourth Irish guest that we've had on the podcast so far, which is absolutely incredible. So, happy to host you, man. Thanks for making the time. How you doing?
Hey Greg, how are you? Nice to be on, and all is good here, thank God.
Yeah, where are you? Are you near Dublin or whereabouts?
I am on the west coast of Ireland,
Hmm.
close to Connemara National Park, so really,
Eh,
really beautiful part of the world. A wet part of the world, but beautiful.
but a nice one on the Emerald
Yeah,
Isle. Yeah,
yeah.
we've actually hosted a country spotlight on Ireland, and I've been lucky enough to have visited Ireland and photographed around your country, so I know it relatively well. And I bet a lot of the listeners and viewers have most likely been to Ireland. But we want to get to know you, mate, because you work as a professional photographer. Could you introduce yourself? Like, who is Bernard Geraghty?
Well, yeah, I'm a photographer, a landscape photographer from the east of Ireland in a county called Kildare. But yeah, pretty much always knew from a young age I'd be a West Coast, person. I just always loved the West, and West is best. Yeah, 38 years of age, and I won't say living the dream. I don't really believe that, but in that, but just in general, just I think enjoying life and in a very good place, in all aspects of life right now, I think.
That's awesome, man. Got to pinch yourself.
Exactly.
I tend to tell Nelly, like, we got to live in the moment and celebrate your wins, because if I had told myself 5 years ago, that I'd be doing what I'm doing now, I would have been pretty stoked about it. So I
Hmm.
think you got to always kind of remind yourself where you're at and be happy with that, because
Yeah.
yeah, we're gonna dig into your story a bit more, but I know you got quite the like home situation going on with some donkeys and a new dog and just a really exciting kind of environment. And I agree with you. West is best, man. I grew up in Ontario, Canada, and I
Yeah.
remember always wanting to go to British Columbia and go to the mountains and get out to the West Coast, because that's where all the amazing scenery is and just these beautiful parts of Canada. So, yeah, I mean, let's start with your journey. Like, you grew up in the East, so tell me a little bit about your childhood. Like, how did you get into the creative arts? Like, how did you grow up?
I grew up with a beautiful family. I have an amazing family, and thankfully they're all still here. Very supportive parents. I would say in my early years I wasn't anyway artistic. I was very sporty, between Gaelic football and, as people in North America call it, soccer. We call it just football. So it was pretty much, yeah, sport, sport, sport. And photography didn't come until 2015. But growing up, I would have always, every Sunday, when back then, every Sunday was a day of rest, as they say. And now it's totally different, because everywhere on Sundays now, shops open, cafes open, restaurants open. Whereas back when I was a child, everywhere closed on a Sunday. So it gave me the freedom to always have my parents on hand, to get them to drive me to the local mountains about an hour away. And I used to just always wander up the mountains as a kind of 11 and 12-year-old child, kicking a football up and down the mountains, while my parents might have had a picnic down at the car park, or just kind of enjoyed the views. So that was where my obsession with mountains began. I could always see them from my house, and just always loved looking at them from a distance. But it wasn't until 2015 that I actually picked up a camera for the first time. So it's been quite a journey, and none of it planned. No childhood dreams of being a photographer. It's just one of those things that it just happened.
Yeah, yeah, sure. So, I mean, 2015 is much later. So, like, let's go through high school and maybe college or university. Like, did you go to school afterwards? Did you study anything after high school?
Yeah, like after high school, I didn't. I went straight into a plumbing apprenticeship. At the time, you were always kind of told, an apprenticeship, a trade is the best thing to have, and I do agree to an extent, especially when you're younger. Um, But I went and got my plumbing apprenticeship, and when the global crash came,
Yeah,
probably in 2008.
2008. Hmm.
Yeah. Um, I went into retail management. So my dad is in retail. He's has his own business. So I'd always dipped in and out of that, helping him anyway. So it was a very natural progression to go into retail management and helping him set up some new stores, which are still open to this day. But I kind of always didn't really know what I was going to do, but knew I wanted to make my own way. I never really wanted to depend on a family business because I see it like even now with my parents, but I see it with like a lot of clients who are self-employed and they have family in their business. They're terrified to walk away from that business, retire, sell the business because they worry about their kids being in the business. What happens to them if they leave it? So I always wanted to have my own freedom. Freedom's probably the wrong word, but yeah. So as I say, I didn't know what I was going to do, but it wasn't until I bought a camera in 2015 that it didn't change my life straight away. But within probably 18 months of buying a camera, I had this business, Bernard Geraghty Landscape Tours, thinking I knew what I was doing.
That's awesome. No, I agree with you. I mean, I'm an entrepreneur. I've been working for myself for over a decade. And you're right. A lot of the people that come onto the photography experiences worldwide all have interesting stories, and a lot of them do make their own way and have the free time to be able to join us. And I'm sure that anybody listening or watching this who has family within their business or they work within a family business can relate to what you're saying. And I do think it is freedom, man. I mean, freedom, I guess, is your own interpretation, but having the opportunity to make your own way and say to your pops like, hey man, this has been fun, it's been a good ride, but I'm going to go off on my own and see what I can do, is definitely freedom. So tell me about
And
that. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
yeah, no, just when you talk about, like literally when I told my dad and my mom and stuff, they were very supportive. My mom was shocked, and I think a few years in, she was still sending me job applications and stuff like that. Um, thinking that I didn't really have a real job. Um, but because it's a very unusual job, it's a very small percentage of people get to do what we do, which is kind of cool. It's one thing I love about it is people are always curious. But if you're talking to a stranger and they ask you what you do and you tell them, they ask you more questions about your job. When you ask them about their job, they're like, I'm just an accountant, back to what you do. And you're like, no, I want to hear about you too. You know what I mean? So that's the first, it's not really frustrating, but everyone just wants to talk about what you do, and they're not interested in telling you about what they do because they think it's boring, which I don't like because there's uniqueness to everything, there's interest in everything. But one thing, I suppose, when I started my business, I'll never forget. It was 2017, and I'd been to Scotland a couple of times, to the Isle of Skye 2 or 3 times, and I thought, you know what, I'm gonna go all in here. And I'll never forget one night going out to shoot. I think it was Northern Lights or Astro with a friend of mine, and on Facebook, I had no website at the time, but on Facebook, I said, right, I'm just gonna create this like Isle of Skye tour, 3 nights, whatever cost it was. I said, right, put it up there. And I was just going to publish it on Facebook, 3 nights, accommodation, transportation, and 2 days. And I was going to leave my phone in the car while I went out for a couple of hours shooting Astro because I didn't want to publish it and be looking at my phone every 2 minutes. See, did someone book a spot? Did someone book a spot? So I wanted that element of surprise. So I put the phone away after I published this, tour on Facebook on the Isle of Skye. And then I went out shooting Astro and came back like a couple of hours later, and like my phone was literally like inundated with messages. People want to book, want to book, want to book. I ended up doing 4 Isle of Skye workshops in 2017, like my first ever, you know. And like it was like 5 people on each. And so yeah, 20 people. I would say probably 50-60% of them people that booked on them tours
Still coming back to this day?
are not just they are coming back. They've come to the Isle of Skye with me multiple times
Yeah,
since.
yeah,
They've
yeah.
been all over the Arctic, been to Africa, Dolomites, Tenerife and La Palma, and like everywhere you could almost imagine. So that's the beauty about it, because you can look back on your earlier days thinking, my God, how embarrassing was that? But obviously you gave them enough for them to keep wanting to come back, which is
Thank
obviously the compliment in itself, you know?
Absolutely. I was just gonna say that's the best testimonial, right? When people just they love what you do, they love the product that you produce, and they want to keep coming back for more and to see more of the world as well. Because I want to dig into how you ended up going abroad and the travel story behind that. So let's actually transition to travel a little bit. When you were a kid, like before the photography in 2015 and before starting your business, did you guys travel much as a family?
Like it was just like my parents are not like, geez, they're great, but they're not into like hiking or like super travel. We did like holidays in Spain. We did Orlando for Disney World. We did New York for Christmas, but we didn't do anything like super adventurous, you know. To me, back then, like not, I'm sounding like I'm, 1950s here, but back in the 90s, to Irish people, that was adventurous. Like Ireland until now, in the last maybe 20, maybe since actually the global crash, like Ireland, there wouldn't have been a lot of money in Ireland, compared to now when the economy is probably doing the best in Europe. But in general, those holidays to the south of Spain or the south of France or New York or Orlando or Paris, back then they were adventurous. You would never have really heard of people going to Lapland for Christmas. You would have never heard them going skiing in Austria back probably 30 years ago, So
Mm.
it's very, number one, the way life is now, it's very easy to forget those times. But yeah, like that was the only bit of travel really growing up that we did. So it wasn't in my blood, it wasn't instilled in me.
So yeah, I mean, yeah, I think a lot of listeners can probably relate to that. When I was a tour leader, I was working in South America, and my mom and dad came to visit me, and they came to Argentina. And I remember my mom saying to me, like, if you weren't here working, we would never have come to South America. Like, it's
Yeah.
just got no interest. And then when they actually did come to Argentina, they fucking loved it. They thought it was
Yeah.
amazing. Wine,
Yeah.
steak, scenery, they had a blast. So, yeah, sometimes it does take I don't know, a little bit of inspiration to go a bit further. And
Yeah.
hopefully, the younger generation of Irish are doing that. I think they are. I mean, I met a ton of Irish people abroad
Yeah.
and all over the place. I mean, there's an Irish pub in every country in the world, basically.
Yeah, like now it's actually, yeah, everyone's traveling
Yeah.
every I think the common thing on Instagram now is, someone's on holidays in some area, and they post a story about, oh, next holiday booked and I'm not even home
Oh,
from this one yet,
geez. Right,
like
right.
I'm kind of over that now.
Mm.
But I think we'll go with everything in between first before we get to where I am now in life.
True, because there are a lot of photographers that actually do that though. They come onto a workshop and then they're like, "What's the next workshop?" And I'm like, "Guys, we haven't even started this one yet. Come on, like,
Yeah,
let's focus on where
and
we are."
it's funny, before we kind of get into the story, into getting into all the travel and the places. If we just go back to last year, May last year, remember that
Sure.
big aurora in
Yes.
May last year? I remember having a group for that on that workshop, on a workshop for that date on the 10th of May into the 11th of May 24. But like the aurora was just unbelievable in Ireland. It was just all over the sky, overhead, corona overhead, the whole lot. And to be on a workshop in Ireland, get these conditions and have completely clear skies, like, that's super rare.
Hmm.
But I'll never forget, like, one person, everyone was enjoying it, obviously, but and this person was enjoying it, but this particular person said, like, as I'm going nuts, because no one expected it to be like this, but they were saying, "Oh, I wonder what it's like in Iceland. I bet it's amazing in Iceland right now." I'm like, it I'm
Don't
sure,
look up.
yeah, like, you know what I mean. But the first thing I said, well, it's going to be crap. And they're like, how is that possible when it's so good here? As well, it's obviously it's not dark enough for one, because it doesn't get dark enough that time of year up there. So the fact that it's dark here and we have it here, enjoy it here. Stop worried about how it is somewhere else. So it's kind of the same thing, you know, like it was so off the charts, like that you just couldn't imagine it. And the first thing someone thinks is, "Oh, I bet it's amazing in Iceland now." And like, no, well, yeah, if it was dark, it would be, but it's not dark enough.
I guess that's the kind of mentality of like the grass is always greener on the other side, you know, that's kind of a
Yep.
classic like personality trait, I think, to a lot of people. You know, I struggle with that sometimes with my new life in Germany because, you know, the weather here in the winter is beautiful.
Yeah,
Yeah, like there's about 4 months a year where I'm still questioning whether I want to be here or not. But the
yeah.
woman that I love and the family that I'm growing is here, you know, and I want to support that and be part of that. So that's
Plus,
little things, but the grass is always greener happens.
the 4 months where you question it, you know, it's
Mhm.
followed by 8 months where you don't question
Oh,
it. And
of
that
course. Yeah.
sounds like a good ratio to me, you
And
know?
the questioning is more of like, just like, hey, man, why don't we go to Spain?
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Because my wife actually used to study in Spain and speak Spanish. So, I mean, there's a whole story behind that. But eventually, once we have the freedom, we probably will kind of do the snowbird thing, you know, like for the winter, kind of go south and huddle somewhere warm for a few months. But let's take it back to you because I do want to learn about like how you got into photography because your photos are so good. I mean, up until now, I've got you, you know, being sporty in high school and then doing your plumber apprenticeship and getting the trade, which I do agree is an absolutely fantastic way to start your own business and be your own boss and make a ton of money. And then got you going to work with your dad. So when is it that you kind of leave the retail business and say, I'm going to pick up a camera? Like, how did you even get a camera?
yeah. So it's mad because I remember my sister having like probably like a Nikon Coolpix or something. It was one of those like cameras with like a million times zoom, but it wasn't an interchangeable lens camera, you know. I just remember when you zoomed in on it, it went out like, you know, probably a foot and a half, and it just had this super zoom. But it was funny. What I loved was the bokeh effect of a camera, not specifically hers, but just of a camera. I loved like, oh my God, you know, this water bottle. Wow, that's in focus and the background is out of focus. So I was like, if I can translate that to landscapes, it'd be unbelievable. So I went into this electrical store, Harvey Norman. I think it's a Harvey Norman in Germany.
Mhm.
No, it's an electrical store. It's an Australian electrical store, but they're all over Ireland here. I just telling a guy what I wanted, and he said, "Yeah, we have this OG XM1, I think it is, with like an interchangeable like 18 to 55 millimeter lens." And I was like, "Interchangeable lens, wow!" You know, now I didn't know a thing about photography, not a single thing, but I do remember taking like some first photos, thinking, "Oh, yeah, okay, the mountain is there, but why isn't the background blurred?" So I quickly realized then what bokeh was and why, like, yeah, you can't like shoot a mountain and then, well, like have something blurred in the background. Like it's kind of silly, but that was literally how it started. Like when I figured out you could do like long exposures and all this kind of stuff. Like my first long exposure was running the kitchen tap and
Well,
like exposing for a couple of seconds. Obviously, I had no filter, so it was completely blown out, but enough to see that silky water, thinking it was amazing. Then thinking, wow, Astro. So I was living in a relatively dark place and going and exposing the camera and then turning out like daylight. And me thinking it was amazing. Like, oh my God, like it's dark, but this is like giving daylight vibes. Me thinking that was cool, you know. So, like, I think when everyone looks at you now, how good or whatever you might be, I think, well, especially with your clients, I think, oh, it's okay for you, you're great at photography. Well, I always try and take it back to tell people that, well, yeah, but there was a time I was really, really, really terrible. And that's the motivation I try to give people to improve. So that's literally how I bought my first camera, how I get into it. And yeah, it just snowballed. I mean, it snowballed from there. Like, I have no idea almost how I got into this position. I just remember thinking, oh, kind of like dealing with people. I used to do like Facebook Live videos every day.
hmm.
Like I go out for sunrise, go for sunset. I would do a Facebook Live, and back then the algorithm wasn't really a thing. So me just doing like a live video at sunrise that would be nice, you know. that I thought would be nice would get thousands of views just on my Facebook, random Facebook page. But then you would share that to a Facebook group, multiple Facebook groups, and it would get tens of thousands of views. So almost like YouTube now, except these are like quick videos. Hey guys, here I am now, this beautiful pink sky, this lighthouse. It was just like 1 or 2 minutes of telling people how amazing this scene was, and that was it. But then people start like adding me as friends on Facebook, and I kind of got a name for myself just kind of doing that, especially being recognizable, I suppose, with a beard and stuff like that. And I always wore a baseball cap, always. So I was quite recognizable that way. But I think what maybe helped was the fact that I was into weather, like not in a serious way, but I was intrigued by weather and by light. Well before I ever thought about photography. So I think that was a good starting point for my photography, was understanding the weather, understanding the light. And when I say like I wasn't like online looking at different things and charts, but there was something inside me. Every time I'd be at home, I always used to look at Sky News and look back when we had the Sky boxes, the Sky digital boxes where you can go straight to like press a button and it goes straight to just weather only. And I used to be so intrigued about, like, say, Ireland was like 12 degrees Celsius, but then, oh my God, look at Riyadh. You know, back then I used to think it was called Riyadh. But that's the innocence of being a child. But I used to be intrigued that, holy God, this place is like 45 Celsius. Like, wow. And I used to do like a world map of temperatures. And then around that time, I just became a little bit, intrigued about the weather. And not that I knew a lot, but it just sparked enough interest in me that when I took up photography, I became really obsessed with the weather and understanding light, understanding clouds, understanding all that kind of stuff, And I think that's why it maybe, if I didn't have the interest in weather as a child, it might not have snowballed as fast, or it might not have snowballed at all. But I always kind of knew then when I bought a camera, I knew when to go out. I knew, well, the eastern horizon looks clear. The western, and overhead looks like it's going to be completely cloudy. So, yeah, sunrise is 7 a.m., and it looks like the horizon's going to be clear. So if I'm there like 6:30, the sun comes up in that gap and I've cloud everywhere, well, that sky could go crazy red or pink. And I kind of start to understand it quite fast just because I enjoyed weather. That makes sense.
Oh, yeah.
So I just kind of knew when to go out. So I would pick my moments, pick my times, and I'm definitely like that today. It's just not going out for the sake of it. Every shot has to have a purpose, in my opinion. But then sharing these videos on Facebook of, it wasn't me, it was the scenes that was really getting people. The lighthouses, the mountains, the rivers, the lakes, the reflections, the fog. But in general, it was those red skies, because there was nearly more home runs than misses because I knew when to go out. So I know I'm rambling a bit now, but that's kind of, I suppose, how it snowballed, and then just the thousands of views and thousands of views. And then a couple of people started to inquire to me about, like, oh, do you teach photography? Because I didn't know of workshops or anything like that in these early days. And, when I pitched this idea to my parents, my dad, really, because I was working for him, he was like, if you think there's something in it, go for it. But just remember, value your time, remember your fuel, all this kind of stuff. Just remember all of these things. And I remember my first ever workshop. I remember I was like in Wicklow, which is the mountains close to me, like an hour away. I remember doing a workshop there for I think it was in the summer, for about 15 hours. It was like €50 each, and there was like 3 people on it. And me thinking, coming home,
So you lost money.
I have €150. Oh my God. And my dad was like, yeah, that sounds amazing, but did you get food today? Yeah, I got breakfast, lunch, and dinner.
Gas.
How much was that? I was like, €50. How much was your diesel? Oh, that was €30. There you go. So you came home with €85.
That's still a plus. I know a lot of people that ran their first workshop in the negative.
Yeah, like that's listen, how you start. Like, not how you start, not necessarily, but that's how I started.
Yeah. Well, I want to dig
So
into it a bit more because you have like there's a lot there. I mean,
there's a lot there.
first of all, weather. I mean, we're all landscape, nature, outdoor enthusiasts listening to this, watching this podcast. You know, we love being outdoors. So that's a big part of travel. Wildlife photography, cultural stuff. So, I mean, I think looking at my phone, dude, I have like probably about 5 weather apps. I've got weather underground, clear out sky, weather and radar, windy, and Regen radar, which is a German rain one, all on my phone.
Yeah.
And that's not even to talk about like new AI ones. There's one called Light Scout AI, and there's another German startup one. And the guys in the comments are going to kill me for not remembering this, but it's another like radar app that sends you alerts.
Yeah.
So of course we're all obsessed with weather. I mean, the more dramatic the weather, the better photos you're going to get. And
Yeah.
once you start to understand that, you really can time your shoots like really well.
Yeah.
And especially with blue hour and golden hour, you start to know, okay, what's the 3 hour window that I actually need to be at this location? And then you just watch the sky, watch the radar, and then you can go out and do it. So I'm really happy to hear you say that because it makes perfect sense to somebody like me and probably the people that are listening. If you're weather obsessed, then landscape photography is a pretty good hobby to have.
Yeah,
Yeah,
definitely,
especially in
definitely.
Ireland where the weather is like kind of crazy. On the West Coast, you guys get huge waves and big storms, and it's fucking
Yeah.
raining a lot of the time. I mean,
Yeah.
it's right there on your doorstep. But I do actually want to dig into the Facebook story a little bit before we get into your first workshops, because with that story you told earlier about the post on the Isle of Skye, where you said, I think I'm just going to throw it out here and see what happens,
Hmm.
3 days, transport included, accommodation, whatnot. When I lived in Australia, I used to work for Tourism Australia. I had an amazing job as an island caretaker. And there was a guy I was working with who won an award that year. It was 2014. And the award was for innovation because he had started his tourism business on Facebook.
Yeah.
That's where he hosted it. He didn't have a website. He didn't have like a business card. He had a Facebook page. And I
Yeah.
think it was his like personal Facebook page. And he
Yeah.
just started networking these experiences to his, friends, and people started booking them.
Yeah.
And he got really successful in like less than a year. And that's the reason I met him, because Tourism Australia was like, you need to go meet this guy,
Yeah.
and that your story really reminds me of that, which is cool. I've never heard anything like that before. So you're on Facebook, you're doing these live videos, back in 2017. So, YouTube's kind of kicking off around then. Casey Neistat was definitely around then. Thomas Heaton started right around then.
Yeah.
So is there a reason why you didn't put them on YouTube?
No, like as I said, they were only a few minutes long. You know what I mean? I was never really into documenting things. To be honest, I enjoyed the experience being out too much. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I do.
I just find, everything distracting. I've had people tell me, Darren, Spoonley, but friends and just general people say, you should really do YouTube. Like, you'd be really good at it. You're outgoing, you're adventurous, you're talkative. Honestly, I just can't be bothered. I I just love the experience of it too much. I have no interest in, no matter what the conditions are like, I have no interest in shooting and editing a photo and editing a video.
Hmm.
If I shoot today, I might not edit a photo for a month.
Yeah, but you could have done the live as well, right? Like it was Facebook Live. Could you have
Yeah,
done
but
that with YouTube?
I don't think you. I don't even know if you can do YouTube live now, but I doubt you could do it then.
Mm.
But to be honest, like, yeah, I just enjoyed it. Enjoyed the interactions, and you know what I mean. Like back then, there was no algorithms. I would argue, like, minus Thomas Heaton and a few others, like really famous YouTubers, but I would argue the views were way higher on my personal Facebook page then than most people are getting on YouTube for
Yeah.
photography
And
vlogs
20
now.
and 27. Oh, now you think as well, eh? Wow.
Yeah, yeah, like there was like now, if I did a live video on Facebook now, it might get 20, 30, 100 views maybe because of the algorithm, it's changed. And, back then I don't think there was an algorithm. It was like if you were friends or someone followed you, that's it, popped
You'd
up.
see it. Yeah.
You know what I mean? And that's, I think if I started this business maybe 5 years later, it might not have worked. Maybe it would have. I don't know. But I do put it down to those early days just on Facebook, just talking to the camera. And back then, people were commenting as you were presenting. So you were talking, hey, Greg, how are you? You know, and he's, yeah, good now. I'm in Germany here, blah, blah, blah. Nice sunrise here too or something, you know? So that's what I loved about it. It was more the interaction. I'd never any interest in doing any of that stuff. And that's why even now, there's obviously times I go out to photograph on my own a lot. But in general, it's better when there's someone around. Just for fun, for, you know,
For the
conversation.
crack.
Literally for the crack. But one thing I always find myself doing is if I go out to photograph and I'm with someone or people, we end up talking about things that men don't generally talk about. You know, which is, you know, feelings and how we are and all these kind of things, which I think is very important as well, you know?
Yeah, for mental health, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I agree. Okay, so take me back to the beginning then. So you ran your first workshop in Wicklow.
Yeah.
But at the time you were still working for your pops at the retail
Yeah.
store. So how old are you? What are we looking at? Like 2015? You're like early
Uh,
30s, late 20s?
I would have been like 27, 28. I'm
Yeah,
38
okay.
now. So yeah, 27, 28, 29 around then. But yeah, I just went hell for leather basically. It was all or nothing. Because I had just like built an apartment out the back of my parents' house, so every bit of money I had went on that. So I had no money to start a business. I just had cameras and a bit of know-how about photography and weather. So I thought, well, what else do I need? Well, I need a nine-seater bus. So I had like 7 grand to buy a bus. Couldn't really find one I liked for 7 grand. Ended up seeing a Volkswagen Transporter 2012 for like 20 grand. And my dad said, listen, you keep your 7 grand, use that to invest into your business. I'll buy you the bus, but you have to pay me back, obviously, which I did because I would never have got a loan to start a business with nothing really, you know,
Sure.
especially this kind of business. So it was down to him, the fact that I got a nine-seater, you know, paid him back monthly over 2 or 3 years. And, you know, over then just building up the company, doing more workshops. Like I went scouting in places before I did workshops in places, if you know what I mean. So, you know, took a few trips to Iceland, took a few trips to Dolomites, to Tenerife, to all over Ireland. And that's what basically I spent that like, kind of 7 grand on, was going on scouting missions to do future workshops, the Lofoten Islands. And yeah, it's funny because so many people commented on the fact when I was trying this business and then when I went to bought a bus, they're like, oh, so you're actually serious about this? I'm like, well, yeah. You know, what's the point in talking about it and not doing it? You know, so that's kind of how it started. Like, because I never wanted to do tours, even though the bus was only for Ireland. I never wanted to do like workshops or tours and have people follow me. Again, I wanted to be an immersive experience that we're all together, we're all chatting, we're all having a laugh, and we're all in the one vehicle. We don't have to worry about loads of parking spots. We don't have to worry about people losing people. So it was always about just being around people, being close to people, and just having a good time, basically.
Yeah, I like the idea of you're all in. It sounds like you've got like a lot of conviction. You know, like when you make up your mind, you're like, I'm doing this. This is happening.
Like it's pretty much like kind of turned full circle now, which we won't get there just yet. But if like the amount of times in my life where people have been like, "What? Are you mad? Giving up plumbing or giving up this or giving up that or trying this or trying that? Are you mad? Are you mad? Are you mad?" I'm like, you know what? Maybe I am, but I don't see it as that. I just see it as normal. I try not to. I just go my gut, not anybody else's gut. People often say, "Would you not go back to do plumbing now? You could earn a fortune." I'm like, yeah, but that's the difference between me and you. I'm not worried about a fortune. You know, my fortune is how I feel up here, not what I have to spend on good things. You know.
That's good advice. Okay, so you start your workshops. You won Wicklow. You're going to Isle of Skye. We're in 2015. What was your first international one? I guess Scotland. Is that right?
Scotland.
Yeah.
Scotland would have been, I would say, Iceland, then the Fortin Islands. Luckily, I'd made friends through photography that were willing to go on trips as well, to help. Not like they weren't advertised as workshops, but it were basically if you go 3 or 4 people go on a trip, it splits the cost a
Of
lot better.
course. Of course.
Dolomites, as I say, Tenerife, and then in the later years, it became like Senya Island, Lapland, Namibia, Botswana, where else? Like Slovenia, Croatia, um, like Faroe Islands. So then it kind of actually just before COVID, then because the gap between me starting, which was 2017, like really starting the tours, to 2000 and the end of 2019, that's a very short window. And then, I had plans in 2019. There was a Patagonia trip planned with a local guide, plans sold out, everything. Same with New Zealand with William Patino. All these things were in place, all sold out. And then COVID hit.
Yeah. COVID killed tourism big time.
Like, I went from traveling 40, 45 weeks a year to nothing, obviously, because, COVID hit. And I think that's when I had a realization, thinking, wow, what was I doing? I wasn't really living in the moment. I was like a zombie most of the time.
Full gas, no brakes.
So I remember, like at one time, I had a Scotland workshop and coming home from Scotland, and I lived at the time like 20 minutes from the airport. I remember getting home from Scotland, like, I'd say like midnight, and having to be in the airport at 4 a.m. to fly to the Dolomites. And at the time, it was completely normal. There was no issues. It was only when COVID hit that changed my perspective on everything, and only realized how burnt out I actually was.
Yeah, interesting. I haven't heard the name William Patino in a long time. I actually met him in Australia back in 2014 when I was working there. Yeah, really, really talented Australian photographer, but lives in New Zealand. Yeah, he might even be Kiwi by now, actually. He's been there for quite a while. Yeah, COVID, I mean, it took a sledgehammer to the travel and tourism industry, man. Like I studied tourism, adventure travel in Canada in the Rocky Mountains, and I've been working in tourism since 2009. I'm very lucky to have had a career in this industry, and COVID just rocked the house, man. Like all of the networking that I've done over the years was just vibrating with stories of people losing their livelihood, offices shutting down, hotels closing doors, one after the other, and including, our workshop businesses. What do we do with all the deposits? We're holding possibly hundreds of thousands of euros of people's money. They might want it back because they need it, are there laws to what we can do with that money, et cetera, et cetera. It's just like such a fucking headache. But you survived. So did I. We made it through. I think my income went from like pretty good in 2019 to very bad in 2020, but then 2021 it creeped back up, and then 2022 is better. So I mean, tell me about that. You had a bit of a shock in COVID. How did you get through it? What happened?
The best thing that ever happened to me. It was unbelievable. I was lucky in a way that I didn't have a whole lot of people looking for refunds. My business is pretty much based on people come and they come back and back and back and back. And they're like, well, what's the point in me looking for that deposit back if I know I'm going to do another trip? So I had a lot of people, like, honestly, some people that are obviously still clients today even said, Bernard, you need it a lot more than I do. Like, not that I wasn't poor, but these were quite wealthy people saying to me, Bernard, like, this is tough for you. Like, you could be out of work for years. So they were like, we really don't want the deposit back, and we don't want it towards another trip. When the time comes, we'll book another trip. You just keep that. That's literally a gift for you, which was very nice for people to do as well. But to be honest, I enjoyed it. I love DIY. I love building stuff, fixing stuff. always doing something, no matter what, and that's what I really love as well. So it just gave me time to do little projects that I wanted to do, build things, make things, like just enjoy being at home. And I honestly found it super refreshing, and it actually led me then to, okay, well, I couldn't go at the speed I wanted to, or I was going at. I just couldn't do it anymore. I hadn't got the headspace for it. And actually, I was like, you know what? I don't even want to go to New Zealand. I actually don't even want to go to Patagonia. And I just contacted people, guys, there's your deposits back. I don't even want to go. And I'm going to tell you straight out, like, I don't want to. Now, like, they probably wouldn't have ran. They wouldn't have ran because there was so many, travel was open, travel was closed, travel was open, travel was closed. I think realistically they never would have ran anyway, because COVID was just too up and down. It was too uncertain. But in general, it was just like, yeah, like, I'm not really bothered with this, to be honest. So it was just more so like I just had no draw to travel there anymore, and I started to feel a lot closer to home, because I used to always think I needed to travel, but actually, no, I actually think it just made me realize I love Ireland even more than I do. And it actually changed my business model now, because now I do more tours and workshops for people coming to Ireland.
Connemara National Park.
Like in Ireland, we have just unbelievable scenery. Like, it's unbelievable. So I just targeted other companies to come to Ireland and guide for them. And that's most of my business is now. I still do some myself, but a lot of it is just guiding for other people now.
Yeah, but you are still going to like Finland and the Canaries and whatnot. So the travel did kind of come back, just maybe a little bit closer to home.
Yeah, exactly. Like the like, it never really stopped. I always just did a bit because I enjoy the Arctic. I enjoy being under the stars. But just in general, I just feel like, to me, Ireland has it all. And that's where, if I was to be traveling those amount of weeks again, like it was pre-COVID, I would want 90% of that to be in Ireland, So, that's it's kind of weird how you kind of flip,
I'm curious. Sorry to cut you off. I'm curious, like, so what gave you the inspiration then from 2017 to 2019 to go like full gas on the international stage?
I think it was just seeing the photos of these places like Secheda and the Dolomites, the view of the red cabins in Lofoten, at the time Skogafoss in Iceland, like things like these, like they were really just, incredible places for. So again, social media was only really taken off that time. So, like, even the Faroe Islands gets a lot of flack for what it does to, the whales and dolphins, which I totally agree with. I really do. Like, it's not nice seeing that. But on the other hand, Faroe Islands is so new to the world. Social media, brought the Faroe Islands to us as people, not just me, but to actual people. A lot of people before social media didn't realize the Faroe Islands existed. Faroe Islands would have been cut off from the world for a long time. That's the reality. It's in the middle of the North Atlantic.
Absolutely. And
they have all these, whatever you like to say, tradition or whatever you want to call it. Like, these are things at the time they had to do to survive. So when you go to the Faroe Islands now, people are like, oh, you shouldn't be going there, blah, 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 because of what they do. I'm like, you know what? It will end at some stage. In my opinion, I think it will end at some stage. But we have to remember those people are new to the world, to the entire world, A lot of people probably would have been, as I say, cut off until social media arrived. Travel was less. It's only becoming more and more now that issues in the world are becoming a problem. It's social media that's opening our eyes to that, in my opinion. So I think all these things that are cruel or bad in the world, when they're exposed to the world, they'll never stop overnight. But I hope in time they will, when people come to the realization that this is not the right thing to be doing. When we look back at Ireland in the late 80s, Ireland were still slaughtering basking sharks until the late 80s. Now basking sharks are thriving again in our waters. They're protected. I hope the same happens in other countries that are kind of, doing similar kind of things, you know.
Sure.
It's not nice. But yeah, it's just seeing these places for the first time online when social media started to really take over. They were the pull was too much to resist,
Yeah,
basically.
you wanted to
You
go see
know?
them. Yeah. And has
Yeah.
it always been landscape? Has it always been like these
Yeah.
classic landscapes that really draw your attention?
Like at the time, yeah, classic landscapes, exactly. That's exactly what it was. Probably not as classic as they are now, like they're probably more classic now. But then I started to realize, well, like, actually Ireland is pretty damn good.
Mhm.
We're always quick, no matter where we are in the world, be it Canada or the States, we're always quick to jump up, go to another country to see their beauty. But we kind of forget about the beauty our own country has, especially with Ireland. So it's not so well known in terms of landscape photography. It has so much, and I just enjoy photographing it so much that now that's the pull that I have. That's too hard to resist,
Yeah,
you know?
that's a good transition too, I think, because your life now is a lot different, right, than it was 5 years ago. Obviously, COVID was a big turning point for you, and it opened your eyes and was a really good experience for you, getting the chance to do those DIY projects. Um, so tell me a bit about your place now, because as far as I understand, you have three donkeys and a dog and a fiance. Like, where? Tell me about your homestead. Do you live
So,
on a farm?
so we've two donkeys.
Oh, you only have two. I thought they had a
Two.
baby.
No, no, no. That's I like one of our hobbies is, uh, you know, in Connemara, it's full of like donkeys everywhere. So one of our hobbies is, getting carrots or getting apples and traveling around Connemara, feeding different donkeys, random donkeys all over the place. So you'd see them on my Instagram. But no, we're very lucky here. We have a nice old cottage here. We've got a bit of land. We've probably 2.5 or 3 acres of land with it. It's beautiful, so it's perfect to have some animals. We're not on a farm, but we are literally almost on a farm. Like literally, we're on a cul-de-sac of 4 houses.
Mm.
We're the last house, and then this it stops at a farm. So it's our house farm,
Yeah.
like 10 feet away. Walk out of my gate, and I can just walk into a farm within 10 feet. And it's my neighbour's farm, and he's like super nice. So the area is just amazing. It's rolling hills, stone walls, mountains in the distance, and it's just the perfect, yes, all the perfect ingredients to have, you know, donkeys. And so like a lot of my stuff now that I'm getting to achieve in the last kind of 4 or 5 years are childhood dreams,
Ah, okay. Okay.
and that's why I suppose I have a different perspective on my situation. So it's just, I feel like it's a pinch me kind of life, just lifestyle. Um, just being in this beautiful place in Old Cottage, which is like childhood dream, Old Cottage in Ireland, in the west of Ireland. Um, about 5 or 6 years ago, I bought a Land Rover Defender. Again,
Mm.
childhood dream. Uh, Having donkeys was always a childhood dream. That's ticked. But not that they're ticked and you move on. They're things I just every day I'm like, wow, you know. And the donkeys are rescued from the fostered from the Donkey Sanctuary. So the Donkey Sanctuary is a global organization. I think it was founded in Ireland, but it's actually it's a worldwide organization now. So it's amazing. So we had to, yeah, get a lot of stuff in place. We had to get a herd number. So technically we're farmers. With the Department of Agriculture, we had to have a crazy setup. I had to build like the a shelter and a pen for them. They have to have direct access at all times to be able to go out into the field, but the field needs to be tracked in a way that they're not exposed to too much grass, because it's grass is very fattening for them, especially in the winter when they're not exercising as much. So they need to be fed barley straw. But they need obviously direct access to water, which there's so much involved in it. And it took like 6 or 8 months just to get that all in place before the donkeys could come here, and we have a 10-month-old golden retriever, Lenny. So it's pretty full on at the moment, and it does change your perspective on life. I'm very lucky where I live. In my opinion, it's the very Midwest of Ireland. So I can be in the northwest of Ireland in Donegal in 3 hours. I can be in the southwest of Ireland in Dingle in 3 hours. Both unbelievable places for photography. But to me, being right beside Connemara, within 20, 30 minutes of leaving home, I'm in these most amazing mountains, valleys, rivers, lakes, sea, ocean, um, super changeable weather. Like, to me, it's the best place in Ireland to live.
Connemara is a national park for those listening and watching. Yeah, it sounds like a dream life, man. I'm sure there's a lot of people that are pretty happy for you. I personally, and a lot of listeners know this, would absolutely love to own a Land Cruiser, Toyota Land Cruiser. That's my dream vehicle.
A Land Rover Defender.
No. Toyota
Yeah, go
Land
on,
Cruiser.
Defender.
Sorry, mate. No.
No,
I've
no,
driven
but
a Defender and they're awesome, especially the newer ones, actually. They're really, really nice. But no, I got to tell you, like, from all the days that I spent in South America, the fucking Land Cruiser is just such a beast. It can take an absolute beating. You can drive it forever. I mean, it's similar, I guess, to the Land Rover, but you are in the UK, so I leave your land. Wait, no, you're in Southern Ireland. Sorry. You know
it's
what I mean? No,
okay.
you're
You're,
over
you're
on that
American.
side.
You're American. I know. Yeah.
I think what year is your Land Rover
Defender.
Defender?
It's
Yeah.
a 2009.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so it's
Ah.
it's relatively new for an older one.
Mm.
So it's the older one, which I just love. But they always say if you want to go off-roading, go on a Defender. If you want to get back, go on a Land
Got a
Cruiser.
Land Cruiser? Nice. That's a good saying. By the way,
Yeah.
I'm probably going to get shit on in the comments for that slip. I'm sorry for all of our Irish listeners. This is the fourth Irish person on the podcast. You think I can get my fucking shit together? Anyway, yeah. I love it. I think it's a great story. I love the donkeys. What inspired you to get two donkeys? Where did that come from?
It's not even an inspiration. It's literally just literally childhood dream.
It's a childhood dream to own donkeys.
Yeah, now technically, like, we don't own them. We're fostering them. We will look after them for the rest of their days. As long as we're able. Or if, one of them was to get sick, but other than that, like, they're ours, but they're still property of the donkey sanctuary, which is great. Like, they're very supportive and stuff like that. But it's great. Going that way to get them is great because there's so much education and training involved before you get them, and it's very helpful,
Sure.
So that's great, but it's just literally a childhood dream.
Do they have to come in a pair?
Yep, there has to be a bonded pair. So yeah, and there's sometimes if one donkey passes, you need to let them stand by the body, and let them mourn. Sometimes if you have a pair, like a bonded pair, if one dies, that other donkey that is still alive, might never bond with another donkey again. They're very affectionate animals. Like, I don't know why, I just love them. I remember last year having a tour for a company, and again, out on our landscape photography adventures with tours, I would show people a lot of places where I know there's donkeys. Everyone loves donkeys. So I bring them, and I actually one couple on a workshop last year, and they went and they actually got me a painting of a donkey, like an original painting of a donkey in a gallery where we were in a town we were staying on a workshop, which was just magic. But it's just the love of donkeys, animals in general, but especially donkeys, and dogs, obviously. But yeah, having just those things just gives you a different perspective on life. And it's honestly got to the stage where, like, even leaving now for like a couple of days, leaving the home, leaving, my fiance, leaving the dog, leaving the donkeys, can be quite upsetting. It can actually be
tough.
quite upsetting, it's very tough.
Yeah, I hear you, especially if you're going for 2 weeks, but it looks like you do still have some trips, coming up in the future. You got a few more travel, experiences, landscape photography tours abroad. What still inspires you to get out there and keep going? Is it the people, is it the social aspect of it? What inspires you to chase that travel?
Just like this, yeah, like most of the people now that book, especially on international trips, they're regulars, so they would have been with you multiple times. So it does feel like you're going with friends. But just in general, getting out, enjoying the landscapes. Like to me, even close to where I live, I'm still finding new places. Google Earth is great, especially the 3D model that gives you that ability to look in places you might never have looked before and finding these little gems. But it's just light. People are great, getting out is great, but it's light that draws me back no matter where I am. Understanding light, understanding the location, how the light works at specific times of year. It's funny actually because I know a lot of people talk about like photo pills and the photographers' emphasis and stuff like that. I'm not really a big fan of them.
Hmm.
Never really use them. I do prefer to just use my, you know, okay, well, I'm here now. This is a beautiful scene. It's 3 p.m. in the day. The sun is here. It's going to set in 2 hours, so it's going to set just slightly over here. But actually, it would be better in summer. But if I was here in the morning in summer, I know it's understanding more so where the sun is in the sky at a particular time of day. That's kind of what I prefer, is kind of manually doing it in my head. I'm not worried about apps, if that makes sense. I just love the rush of light and understanding locations and, being okay with like, okay, well, to really get the shot I want, it's going to be 6 months before I can actually get that because the direction of the sun and stuff like that needs to be different to get what I want. But it's that curiosity that I love, that it's like, I just prefer to just do it myself. So I'm not, yeah, okay, look at apps for weather, but in general about sun direction and light and stuff like that, I much prefer to kind of know what's north, south, east, and west in my head.
Yeah, you figure it out as well. I mean, it's part of the process. I think
Yeah,
these apps that I'm talking about, the newer ones that I mentioned earlier, I think they're trying to take that away in a sense, or make it easier. Trying to offer you a quicker solution. Where, I mean, this is another topic completely, but like that's it. They're taking away the process. They're
yeah,
taking away the work ethic. They're taking away the passion almost, in a sense of, like, you don't learn because it's just told to you.
yeah,
You're not actually figuring it out for yourself. You're not
yeah.
seeing the hard work that goes behind it. And I think that we'll know the consequences of that years from now. But no, that's really interesting, man. I'm happy to hear that. I think that's a very different answer from a lot of other people that I've heard from about their travel experiences. And that's very landscape specific too, though. I
Yeah.
mean, what you just said, it's very much about the landscape and the light and the weather and the time of year, the seasons, especially in the Arctic.
But even just talking about weather there, like I know you named out a lot of like kind of weather apps you use.
Mhm.
I just use the one. I just use Windy.
Oh, you use Windy. Yeah. Yeah, me
Yeah,
too.
I use and then I'm like, right. I just look at like one model and I'm like, right. I know tomorrow there's a chance because I know if I just look at one and I know there's a chance, I'll go out.
Mm.
If I look at five different models and three are saying there's no chance and two are saying there's a chance, I'll like, oh no, maybe I won't go out.
Yeah, that's interesting. I use one called Weather and Radar mostly as well. I
Yeah,
kind of lean onto one, but
it's
that's an interesting take. I've never heard that either.
yeah, like again, when do we ever regret going out? There's been times I've gone out and the like listen, a lot of times like, well, magic has happened, but there's a lot of times I don't go out and you never regret it because you might go for a nice breakfast or a nice coffee. You get to chat with some friends. You know what I mean? Like that's to me what it's about is just the enjoyment of it and not being too weather obsessed. I am weather obsessed. I love the weather, but when it comes to just making the decision to go out, I'm like, yeah, I'll go out. Looks decent, so I'm just gonna go anyway, no
Mm.
matter what it's gonna be, and because you just don't regret it, even if you don't take a photo, it's still just amazing, and it's not a conundrum then, the conundrum of looking at 4 or 5 apps and trying to get an idea of what it's gonna do. Just
No, you just go
one,
and do it.
One and gone.
Yeah. I think for me as a photographer, I've always loved sunrise for that reason. Like I get up early, it's hard to get out of the warm bed. It's dark, you go out and you're walking or you're driving somewhere. But then even if the light is kind of dull, you're awake when everybody else is waking up.
Yeah.
And I've always loved that. It's like I'm wide awake and it feels like the world is just kind of starting to wake up now,
Yeah.
and that's always been a really nice aspect of photography. But listen, we're going on for quite a while here, which is kind of nice. I feel like I still want to learn more about you, but let tell me, what is your definition of travel photography then? Like, how would you describe that? Because I know you're more of a landscape nature guy, but would you like be interested in cultural stuff, like photographing events or even wildlife? Like, what would you say travel photography is to you?
Um, like these past few weeks, I've been kind of thinking a little bit how I'd love to travel to particular cities to do some cityscapes. Generally, just to photograph some classic shots that I've seen online that don't like take much thought, because I'm like, oh, I want that shot, I want that shot, I want that shot. So just more kind of chill kind of vibes that I'm not fighting with light or fighting with scouting. It's just like I want to shoot that shot. I want to travel to that city to shoot that shot, and I'm happy to kind of do that just for something different. That's kind of something that's an itch that I want to scratch. Wildlife, I've shot so much wildlife. Traveling to Namibia and Botswana, albeit most of it for astro photography. I've done so much safari, taken plenty of photos, but never done anything with them because it's just not my thing. Unless the wildlife is incorporated into the landscape. But in general, like it's nothing else. It's just landscape. Landscape is what speaks to me.
Mm.
Like, scenes that are presented to me are really what gets me going.
And you're traveling for those like iconic scenes, the things that
No,
really interest you.
like I wouldn't say even iconic. Yeah, of course you shoot iconic things, but like for instance, we're all inspired. That's how I think we start being inspired by these iconic spots. But then it's like really rooting out your own images from places as well. Like I remember in the middle of COVID when we had like a little window where we could travel. I remember traveling to Secheda in the Dolomites. That crazy spiky mountain. Um, super super iconic spot. But I remember for like 5 or 6 days tracking a storm. Going through Europe, going through Switzerland and Austria. And I remember thinking, okay, this could hit the Dolomites. And literally looking one day, thinking, okay, this is going to hit the Dolomites tomorrow. And I remember just booking a flight for the very next morning, flying straight to the Dolomites with my camping gear and just landing, getting a car and driving straight to the Dolomites and hiking up this mountain, camping to the most insane thunderstorm ever. And then the lightning not hitting Secheda mountain, the lightning came out of the mountain. So it's actually upward lightning.
Mm.
So I didn't notice at the time until a friend of mine, Mike Albinski, he's from Phoenix, storm chaser, told me about this. And it was honestly the craziest experience I ever had. Like I camped out that night and it was so wet. Oh my God. But it was, an iconic spot. But I was like, well, who else has it with this crazy lightning? Like, maybe people do. I don't know. I didn't look. But to me, that was unique, So it's trying to, there's a lot of unique opportunities that I love as well.
Mm.
And that's where the weather comes into it also, just kind of knowing a little bit about that. But like, yeah, in general, it's just trying to find something that you love. Not worrying about if anyone else photographed it or not. If you love it, that's all that matters. And that's what inspires me. As I said, mostly it's in Ireland now that these situations inspire me, trying to get into every little nook and cranny I possibly can to make something interesting. But like to me, that's traveling. My brain is traveling through all these ideas, and that's what I love, regardless of whether it's in Ireland or anywhere around the world.
Amazing. Yeah, I can hear the passion in this story, chasing those experiences and it's very inspiring. So Thanks, man. Thanks for sharing. Thanks for sharing the childhood dreams. Remember to pinch yourself every day because, as we said at the beginning of this, life is happening now, man. Remind
Yep.
yourself of your present every day because a man who's healthy has a million problems, but a man who's unhealthy only has one. Like you gotta pinch yourself and realize that what you got is good. And you got a fiance too. When are you getting married? Next year?
April 27.
That's good you remembered that. I'm sure she's
Yeah,
not listening,
yeah,
but still.
yeah. And actually, the funny thing is, I have a workshop with Chris Byrne. Chris Byrne is a photographer in Portland, Oregon, who I do a lot of work with, and we have a couple of trips in 2027, and I momentarily forgot about them, and like almost, I actually tried to have the wedding date on a specific date, and she won out in the end. But if I had my way, it would have overlapped with the workshops.
That's hilarious. Not knowing.
It was
Typical.
almost like
Yeah.
yeah, it was like a get out clause, but it didn't work.
Ooh, no, I wouldn't say it's a typical dude
Nah,
move where you're like,
no,
wait
no,
a
no.
second, what did you say? Wait until you actually get married. My wife is hilarious. I have to check with her like every week just to make sure that my schedule is on her
Yeah,
schedule.
yeah,
Uh,
yeah. That's it.
anyway.
That's it.
Yeah. No, it's been a pleasure, Bernard. Thank you for making the time. I hope that the people who are still listening, watching this episode, have really enjoyed hearing from you. You have a really unique take on life and on your business, and it's really happy to see what is it, BG Landscape Tours doing
Yeah,
well. So I'll link
yeah,
to all that stuff in the description. But you take care, man. Happy holidays, and we'll see you in the new year. See what you're up to in
yeah.
2026.
Happy Christmas. Thank you
Indeed.
very much.
You're welcome. All right. Take care, Bernard.
Cheers, man.